came to the conclusion that unseen germs were at least partly to blame for a high mortality rate. He proposed hand washing between medical procedures such as examining a dead body and then delivering a baby. The hospital Dr. Semmelweis worked at agreed. They began washing their hands between procedures. The result? Less than a year later, maternal mortality rates plummeted to historic lows. Here's another example. In the late 70s and early 80s, education on the dangers of not wearing a seatbelt when in a car came to the fore. Numerous campaigns were created to educate the public on the benefits of wearing a seatbelt. The result? Over the next 30 years, vehicular-related deaths dropped radically. Now let's talk about the nutritional recommendations based on Ansel Keys' findings. As we mentioned, in 1977, the FDA released new dietary guidelines promoting a heart-healthy diet, recommending that everyone consume more carbs and less fat. More carbs and less fat? How'd that work out? Unfortunately, over the next 30 years, diabetes rates have nearly quadrupled. Hypertension continues to climb steadily. Obesity levels skyrocket. And metabolic syndrome has become commonplace. Sound health and safety recommendations should produce favorable results. In the first two examples, that's precisely what happened. But when it came to the aforementioned dietary guidelines, the opposite has occurred. Clearly, the results have been disastrous. Is it a coincidence that our current health crisis began shortly after these nutritional guidelines were introduced?
The legacy of the food pyramid is a great example of an epic mistake that has caused more chronic disease in modern times than anything.
The guidelines have always been evaluated on how well they were followed. They have never been evaluated on how well they work. It says that in the 2010 dietary guidelines themselves. All of our dietary decisions, from our general concept of what is healthy, to what our children are served in their school lunchrooms, to what information we get on the package, have never been tested for health outcomes. We should be horrified by this.
All the things that we have lionized through the food pyramid and the American Dietetic Association and all the other major health organizations, these foods are making us sick, fat, tired, and depressed, and that's the legacy of the food pyramid.
The Western diet, or the standard American diet, is an absolute crime against humanity. It is making us sick and fat, and as the boundaries of the developed world expand, more people are becoming fat and sick.
If you look back historically, I think you'll find we've always had carbs and sugar. So what suddenly changed? Seriously, what changed?
Sure, refined carbs and sugars have been around for a long time. But have you been to your grocery store lately? One of the first things Laith and his wife noticed after his diagnosis was how hard it was to find healthy, lower-carb food options. But something else happened in the 70s that would cause this massive shift towards carb loading. In 1973, Secretary of Agriculture Earl Butz initiated a 180-degree policy change for the Farm Bill. The new policies subsidized the production of corn and grain, bringing about the corporate-friendly model we have now. All that cheap corn made it possible for a relatively new and exciting product to make its way into the food chain: high-fructose corn syrup. The growing fear of fat made way for low-fat food culture to permeate nearly every corner of the grocery store. 30 years later, and try to find many food products without it.
Enter high-fructose corn syrup. It was the same time that we started to change our corn policies in the Nixon administration back in the 1970s. And so you have the invention of high-fructose corn syrup, you have low-fat foods, you add the sugar to make the foods more palatable, and all of a sudden you're adding fat in the form of fructose, but making it sound like it's something that's healthy because it's low fat.
If you're processing food and you're taking away the fat, it tastes like crap. And then you have to add often more sugar to make up for it. And so you have people avoiding fat and eating more sugar or easily processed carbs, making people hungrier, making them eat more, giving them obesity and diabetes in the long run.
As soon as you take fat out of the diet, the food tastes so terrible that you have to trick the brain into thinking it's healthy. So you add sugar, and then you get the sugar addiction, which takes over.
Fructose consumption has dramatically risen since World War II. By the mid-70s, it had almost doubled. And just 20 years later, we were consuming nearly triple the fructose. My generation, the generation born in the 70s and early 80s, was the first generation to have high fructose corn syrup prenatally. But does that matter? Can what a woman eats while pregnant cause her children to have an attraction to the food that she ate?
There's a lot of memory that comes through the breast milk to our children that help the children to understand what is something foreign and what is something that is accepted in my diet. So if we're giving them memory of sugar or high fructose corn syrup, their brains are going to send them in that direction. If we eat lots of fruits and vegetables during our pregnancies, we nurse, and we give them memory of fruits and vegetables, there's research that shows that they're going to be more inclined to eat the healthier foods.
Infants, they begin to swallow some of the amniotic fluid, and they actually begin to have a taste preference depending on what the mother ate. They are tasting all of those foods that the mother is tasting. So I really encourage pregnant moms to be mindful of what they are eating, that they are developing something that their child is going to actually have some taste preferences when they're born, and they will follow them for later in life.
The typical American mom has the typical American diet. It's loaded up with sugar and salt and chemicals and all the wrong foods. Before ever these babies are born, their palates are being predisposed to a bet you can't eat just one kind of environment. It's a setup to perpetuate the status quo where the food industry keeps selling junk because the next generation of customers is being born preferring junk.
So the increasing prevalence of refined carbs and sugar is a complicated problem. Sure, there are more unhealthy foods to eat, but more importantly, the pervasiveness of the food products we are exposed to every day has altered our definition of what healthy food really is. Out of the 600,000 products sold in the American grocery store, 80% contain added sugar or high fructose corn syrup. As a result of this cultural shift, many tend to think of processed carbohydrates as our primary source of nutrition. What do you think of when I say the word food?
Pizza, fried fish and chips, definitely linguine, pizza and sushi. Fast food.
I think of popcorn, and like maybe cookies, Ben and Jerry's, fried calamari.
I have to say lasagna.
I think about burgers,
sugar cookies,
good bread.
What factors contribute to our beliefs about food? Are you and I influenced by the food advertising we see every day?
The marketers are spending hundreds of billions of dollars. These are not stupid people. They are spending the money because it works.
Our research has shown that it's not even a conscious process, that when people see ads for food, they eat more food.
To a person, they say, no, I can see it can influence others, but it wouldn't influence me. And that's the big reason why the solution of, okay, now that I know it, I'll use my willpower to keep from ever happening, is just not going to work for most people.
Do you think you're affected by food marketing?
You be sitting at home not having anything to do, and once that food comes on the screen, it makes you, think about it.
Not personally, no, not me, but maybe some people might, but not me.
Well, yes, I think most people are, whether they want to admit it or not.
I'm not, my husband is, and my son.
Fast food freaks me out now, and I still sometimes see commercials and I'm like, wow, that looks pretty good. And then I come back to reality and I'm like, all right, never that hungry.
I'm not quite sure if I am, but I'm pretty sure I might be.
Yeah. Yes,
oh yes, but little.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker. I see it, I like it, I go for it. I think I would just take my money, just give me whatever, I'll eat it, you know?
Yeah, I think everybody is. I think it's just so mass marketed that there's no way to avoid it these days. Since marketing to adults works so well, what about children? How are they affected by the endless parade of food advertising marching in front of them?
They make it obviously look like this is fun. This is, tastes good.
Really cool commercials, like, catchy rhymes, catchy little jingles. Cartoon characters is definitely the biggest one.
You generally use the foods that are good for kids, like put food in the shape of a dinosaur, food in the shape of an animal.
Sometimes they try to do commercial funny. And to me, when something is funny, it's dangerous because they don't want to put your own thinking on the side effects of bad food.
They use a lot of color and a lot of cartoons. So I guess that's a way that is influencing children.
I'm not against food companies selling their products, marketing their products, and doing everything they can to sell products. I think there should be some limits placed on what they're permitted to do. Food companies should not be permitted to market to children. Period, end of story.
I travel all around the world. Nobody has this idea of kids' food the way we do. And it's all about marketing. So the idea that we're brainwashing our children to think chicken nuggets is a food group and hot Cheetos is breakfast, we ought to ban food marketing of children.
You put a cartoon character on food, and it doesn't matter what's inside the box or the package, they want it. They're just immediately drawn to it. So it's very, very powerful.
They are not marketing to the parent, they are marketing to the child. So clearly they know that getting the child to want that food is gonna benefit them, and because the child will then advocate for that food with their parents. So it's that undermining, that absolute disrespect of parenting, and making the grocery store a place that's filled with arguments in the cereal aisle about which cereal you're going to buy. That's what really frustrates me. And I feel like as a society, it is time for parents to stand up, to get really angry, and to tell the food industry, you all need to back off. You need to stop marketing to our kids.
It's hard to deny marketing's impact on each of us, regardless of our age.
Oh, I see where you're going. Food and beverage corporations are the bad guys.
Well, big food certainly is part of the problem, but really, everyone is involved. Think about it. Why do publicly traded food corporations make addictive foods and escalate marketing efforts? To earn a profit. But that profit is not just for the corporation. It's also for the corporation's shareholders. If we have 401k or a mutual fund that owns shares in a giant food company, we are both